Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tendai Kativhu from the National University of Science and Technology, Zimbabwe. With me is Rossanie Malolo from University of Malawi Polytechnic and Danny Barrington from the University of Western Australia. I'll do the presentation and they will join us during the question and answer session. I'm going to present to you a paper on amplifying local voices to reduce failures in the Sub-Saharan WASH sector. A brief background of our research. Globally, 10% and 26% people do not have domestic access to basic water supplies and sanitation, respectively. And it has been noted that progress to achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 6, which is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, is slow. A number of interventions have been done and some are still being done across the globe. However, regular fail is causing financial losses, social and physical harm. The failure tales are rarely shared within the wider sector, and those that have been shared, the lessons that are being learned, they are not always put into practice. This has initiated a game that is called Blunders, Bloopers and Foul Ups, which is a recent initiative at international WASH conferences, which has been initiated to nurture a culture of sharing failures. But it has been noted that those who attend these international conferences are normally professionals that occupy higher offices at organizations, and field-based staff are normally left out. Hence, this research was targeting field-based staff in Sub-Saharan Africa. The research questions that we sought to answer were 3. The first one was, how do field-based WASH professionals perceive the failures that they see in WASH, and why are they happening, and what could be learned to avoid repeating them? Secondly, we wanted to understand how failures and discussions about them are perceived within organizations, and what strategies are in place to correct them and to ensure they are not repeated. The last question that we sought to answer was, what challenges in the wider Sub-Saharan African WASH sector are required to establish an environment that is conducive to openly share and learn from failures. Participants were recruited using purposive sampling so that we wanted to ensure a mixture of private, public, non-governmental, as well as academic institutions. Snowballing was used to identify further participants. We had a total of 108 participants from Sub-Saharan Africa, where from Malawi we had 35 participants, from South Africa we had 15 participants, Tanzania had 38, and Zimbabwe had 20. Across these countries, the participants were from government departments, they were from non-governmental organizations, from research institutions, as well as from the private sector. During data collection preparation, an initial data collection instrument was developed by the principal investigator and the co-investigators from each participating country. Ethical approval was obtained from the University of Leeds, and in each country there was an instrument development workshop with the data collectors to contextualize the tool. And local ethical approval was received in some countries, and it was waived in other countries. Due to COVID-19, the data collection instrument and the delivery method were amended to conduct interviews remotely in some locations. But where COVID-19 regulations were met, face-to-face interviews were done. A total of 95 individual interviews were conducted and 2 focus group discussions with 13 participants were conducted with audio recordings. Audio recordings were transcribed and translated into English during data analysis, and the PI and co-investigators prepared research memos for each transcript and discussed the overarching themes arising. 2 members of the team reviewed all the memos and developed a coding framework, and the principal investigator coded the transcript to ensure the most salient themes were discussed and recommended through research dissemination. Coming to our results, answering the first question on the perceptions on failures by field-based practitioners, it was indicated that one of the contributing factors to failures was insufficient capacity, where lack of formal training opportunities was highlighted, including the capacity to be able to be reflexive and responsive to changing conditions. Secondly, it was noted that there is lack of coordination and communication between WASH actors, which leads to duplication of work and confusion. If I am to quote one of the respondents, a Malawian male who is in a government institution, they said that if coordination at district level is not strong, we always meet these challenges. So at district level, there is some sort of disorganization. We are not well coordinated that we can be doing WASH well. I close the quote. Pictorially, poor or lack of coordination is evidenced in that slide, where the picture is showing 2 balls which were drilled by 2 organizations. What it means is that under such circumstances, the sustainability of such projects becomes questionable, because normally communities, when one of the balls breaks down, they don't have the agency or the need to repair it because they have an alternative source close to where they were getting the water. So what it means is that it actually affects the sustainability of the projects that are implemented in an uncoordinated manner. And this actually shows that organizations where there is no coordination, they tend to compete instead of complementing each other's efforts in supplying water and sanitation services to the communities. Secondly, it was also highlighted that there is no sufficient community engagement, resulting in lack of community ownership. And also there is lack of needs assessment, which results in the implementation of inappropriate projects that are not prioritized by communities. Then also another factor that is causing failures that was highlighted are unrealistic expectations by donors, especially when it comes to restricted timeframes and limited funding, which result in projects being done in a hurried manner. Then there's also the issue of politics and bureaucracies, especially when it comes to government departments, which delays implementation of projects. Then also it was indicated that there is inadequate planning regarding needs assessments, budgets, and time frames, which also impact on the success of WASH projects. Then when it comes to the second question, which was on perceptions of sharing or discussing failures within organizations, it was noted that within organizations, most organizations, they have some mechanism of sharing failures and challenges, but this is normally done by employees that are at the same level. They don't share with higher level employees. Then between organizations, it was noted that it's very rare for organizations to share failures unless they are closely working together, but still a tendency of hiding failures and challenges was noted. Then also, there is an assumption that blame must be apportioned. Therefore, the perceived size of the blame impacts on how much individuals are willing to disclose their failures. Then the other also challenge was donor reaction, where organizations were worried that if they report the failures or the failures are known, then funding can actually stop. Then there was also lack of action to address failures. Failures, they were noted to be addressed at the short term, but in the longer term, they were not being addressed. Therefore, they were not entering the institutional memory, and there was actually recurrence of such failures. In the project, we interviewed frontline WASH professionals who tend to be able to discuss and tackle smaller issues, but not necessarily feed these lessons up the hierarchy to where institutional change can occur. Like I said, that employees were willing to share their failures with their colleagues at their same level. One of the quotations, which is quite interesting, is that a Tanzanian male indicated that most of the leaders don't like to hear what they don't like to hear. They like to hear good news and development, and everybody wants to hear good things, while the bad ones we hide them under the carpet. So this actually shows why some employees are not comfortable sharing their failures. Then the third question on required changes in the wider Sub-Saharan African WASH sector to nature sharing culture. One is accountability. The more accountable to our failures we become, the more acceptable it becomes to discuss and act on them. And it was actually noted that accountability can be increased by cross-organizational platforms for sharing, which can be done, which should be formal, but which can be run in an informal manner. Then also there should be improved coordination and communication between organizations, because if there's already a culture of working together, sharing becomes easier, whether positive or negative outcomes of a project. Then also, failures should be taken as a learning opportunity, right? Where the sector needs to pivot to consider failures and challenges to be opportunities to learn and solve future problems. One of the respondents from South Africa had this to say, I quote, "You know, if you say lessons learned, that has a more positive spin on it than failures. People don't want to talk about their failures, so you ask what were the lessons learned, but we learn lessons from failure actually." So the positivity that is being carried by that quotation shows that if we change our lens as developers, right, as practitioners, to see failures as an opportunity for us to improve and learn, that those failures can be freely shared among or between organizations. Then thirdly, donors' roles could influence a cultural shift, where donors should actually encourage implementers to be more flexible in project planning, so that this can actually allow the desired results to be achieved. Then also, they should expect failures to occur, and they should mandate their reporting as lessons learned, so that practitioners can be free to share the lessons or the failures that they would have come across. The team comprised of a principal investigator, Dr. Danny Barrington, country coordinators from the countries that participated, co-investigators from the countries that participated, as well as data collectors. That's the Nakuru Accord, failing better in the WASH sector. So you can visit that link given there so that you can get to know more about it, as well as you can become a signatory. I want to thank you.